What's up guys, it's Danta. Now it's been a while since I made a Dota 2 video, and I figured it's time for a new one. Now I've noticed a lot of people asking, I'm new to Dota 2, which hero should I play? Or which hero is fun to play for a new player? So in this video, I will show you a few heroes that I think are the most beginner friendly and talk a bit about their abilities, plus maybe give a couple of tips along the way. Now if you are completely new to the game, I will have a link to my Dota 2 beginner's guide in the description below. In that guide, I cover how Dota 2 works, laning, last hitting, enabling character guides in games so that you can see what you should build on your hero, and more. Now, since this is a video for new players, I won't go in depth on which items you should get. Instead, you should just select one of the guides in game and build the items shown there. Most of those guides are already great. However, if you would like a more in-depth guide for a specific hero, just let me know and I'll see what I can do. Anyway, I don't want to make this intro any longer than it has to be. So, let's just get into it.
Boom! Headshot!
Sniper is a ranged DPS hero that you can play with one hand. Or well, with just one finger actually, because this little piece of can just auto-attack you to death. Now this hero can be played in any lane, but for new players it's recommended to go to the safe lane with a partner. Personally, I prefer playing Sniper in the mid lane because it gives more XP, which allows me eventually to roam and use my ultimate to snipe enemies faster. Sniper has 4 abilities. His first ability, Shrapnel, lets you shoot out a ball of shrapnel in the air, which reveals the targeted area and also damages heroes that walk through it. Sniper's second ability is a passive called Headshot. Now this passive can be annoying as hell for enemies when you have high attack speed. It gives your attacks a chance to deal extra damage, slow the enemy, reduce their attack speed, and if that wasn't enough, it will also knock them back. Take Aim passively increases your attack range but also does something when activated. When you use this ability, your headshot chance will increase to 100%. Your attack range will even become bigger and you will also get more armor. But you will be slowed by 65%. So in a nutshell, Take Aim allows you to stay far away from other players and still right-click them to death. Oh boy. Then we have his ultimate, Assassinate. But I like to call it Snipe. When Sniper uses this ability and you are at low HP running away without any defensive items, you will hear this little son of a yell, Snipe. And when you hear that, well, first you will get depressed and after that you will be dead. Now basically what Assassinate does is it lets you snipe an enemy for a lot of damage at an insane range. So it's great for dealing with low HP heroes that run away. The more attack damage items you have, the more damage Assassinate will deal. Because of that, you will see a lot of turbo players build Divine Rapiers on Sniper, allowing him to one-shot heroes with Assassinate. Now for those that have no idea yet what turbo is, it's basically the same game mode as normal matches, but you get more gold for kills / last hits, which makes matches go faster. Oh, and I almost forgot, if you buy an Aghanim Scepter on Sniper, your snipe will be cast almost instantly and also stun the enemy hero. Now even though Sniper can be annoying to play against, especially if not focused during teamfights, he's quite squishy and doesn't have a lot of HP. He can deal a lot of damage, but if you get focused and don't have escape items like Shadow Blade or a Hurricane Pike, you might have a tough time. Now that's it for Sniper's abilities. So if you want to play a ranged DPS hero that can auto-attack enemies to death from a distance and finish them off with a snipe, definitely give Sniper a try. X is a tanky initiator that can disable enemies by taunting them, forcing his enemies to attack him. While he gets attacked, he will start spinning his huge axe around, dealing damage to all enemies nearby. When an enemy reaches low HP, X will be able to execute their ass instantly. Now X has 4 abilities. His first ability, Berserker's Call, taunts all nearby enemies, forcing them to attack him for a few seconds. After using his taunt, X gains additional armor, which will make him even tankier. This ability is great for initiating teamfights and controlling your enemies, because it interrupts and forces enemies to focus on X. Then we have Battle Hunger. This is a debuff that you can put on your enemies. It causes them to take damage over time and also slows them a bit. The debuff will last until the enemy either last hits a creep, denies a creep, or till the debuff expires. Now Battle Hunger is very useful to harass people with in the early game, especially squishy heroes. If you buy a Aghanim's shard on X, you can stack multiple battle hungers on a enemy, plus all enemies you taunt will be affected by a battle hunger as well. X's third ability is Counter Helix. This ability is what in my opinion makes X a lot of fun to play. Whenever X is attacked, he has a chance to start swinging his axe, dealing damage to all nearby enemies. Now the more enemies that are hitting X, this includes creeps as well, the more he will be swinging his big axe around. Now his spins can actually be devastating, especially in the early game. For example, if you taunt an enemy hero along with an entire creep wave, you almost guarantee a kill, unless you get stunned or the enemy is a tank. Oh, and if you get an Aghanim Scepter, your spin to win ability will have no cooldown anymore. And it will also apply a stacking debuff to enemies it hit, which causes them to deal less damage to you. As for X's ultimate, oh boy. So X's ultimate, Culling Blade, allows him to instantly kill an enemy that falls below a certain health threshold. Now, the best thing about this ability is that it gets refreshed whenever you kill someone with it, and it will also give you movement speed. So if there are multiple low HP heroes walking around, you can have a lot of fun insta-killing all of their asses. Now, since X is best at initiating teamfights, you should get a Blink Dagger, blink in, and surprise your enemies with your taunt. Now, once you taunt them, they will attack you. So you should also get a Blade Mill. While Blade Mill is active, all enemies attacking you will take their own damage back. There is nothing more satisfying than watching a sniper or a Wind Ranger nuke themselves because they are attacking you while you have your Blade Mill on. Now that's it for X's abilities. If you want to play a big, red, tanky spin-to-win hero who executes their enemies with a giant axe, then you should definitely try out X.
Someone called the doctor?
Witch Doctor is a ranged support hero who can heal allies, stun enemies, and deal an insane amount of damage, especially in teamfights. Now I love Witch Doctor, man, I really do. He is an easy hero and so fun to play aggressively with. Plus, if you have the monkey on your shoulder cosmetic, he will throw coconuts at people which will stun them, while also yelling, "Oh yeah, look at it go!" Like, for real, this hero is probably one of my favorites. Now, Witch Doctor has 4 abilities, and an extra one if you buy an Aghanim shard. His first ability, Paralyzing Cask, is a ability that lets Witch Doctor throw a casket or coconut, if you have the monkey cosmetic, that bounces between enemies. This will stun them and deal damage. Now, the bounces can annoy the living hell out of enemies because it will interrupt them, bounce to another enemy, stun it, and then bounce back to the same person it previously stunned, and basically do that over and over and over and over. So, it's a great ability for harassing enemies, and it can also easily set up kills when combined with other abilities. Then we have Voodoo Restoration. This ability allows Witch Doctor to heal himself and nearby allies. It does, however, keep draining your mana while it's active. Now, a while ago there was an update that implemented facets, and basically it allows you to choose between a couple of talents which can modify some of your abilities. On Witch Doctor you have a facet which can actually turn your Voodoo Restoration into a damaging spell, which is pretty cool, but it won't heal your allies anymore, so choose wisely. Then we have Witch Doctor's third ability, which is called Maledict. This curses a targeted area, which will deal a burst of initial damage, and then it causes enemies to take additional damage over time. When you've leveled up Maledict a couple of times, it will become a really good spell that can deal a lot of damage. Now, when combined with Paralyzing Cask and your ultimate, it can actually destroy enemies. Now, what I like to do if I'm able to get a lot of farm early game is get an Urn of Shadows and a Veil of Discord. That way I can increase the spell damage my enemies take. So basically I just dot them up with Urn of Shadows and Maledict. And after that I just see them run back to base or die all the time. Which is a lot of fun. Next up we have Witch Doctor's ultimate, Death Ward. This summons a ward that attacks the nearest enemy hero, dealing massive physical damage. Now this ultimate can literally destroy an entire team in teamfights, especially if you can position it well and protect yourself from getting stunned with, for example, a Black King Bar or a Glimmer Cape. Now with an Aghanim Scepter, Death Ward gains the ability to bounce its attacks to multiple targets, which will increase its damage even more. Now when you buy an Aghanim shard, Witch Doctor gains Voodoo Switcheroo. This ability is awesome. It basically allows him to transform into a Death Ward for a few seconds. This will make you invulnerable while damaging nearby enemies. It's a great way to surprise enemies and deal additional damage during teamfights. Now one of the things that I do, I buy a blink dagger, blink on top of an enemy, throw a maledict on his ass, stun it with my casket, and then use either my ult or switcheroo. It kinda depends on if the enemy has a stun or not. Doing this can get you some easy kills. Plus, to be honest, it's fun as hell. Now that's it for the Witch Doctor. If you enjoy a hero that can be annoying as hell with his stuns, heal allies, put curses on people, and deal massive amounts of damage with his ultimate, then you should definitely give Witch Doctor a try.
Here's poison in your eye.
Viper is another ranged carry that can be very annoying to play against. Not only can he deal a lot of poison damage, but he can also slow you down a lot, which makes it hard for enemies to run away. There's a high chance they just die from the poison. Now Viper has 4 abilities and an extra one if you buy an Aghanim Scepter. His first ability is Poison Attack. It's an ability that lets Viper apply poison to his auto attacks. After hitting an enemy with it, it applies a stacking movement speed slow and magic resistance reduction, while also dealing damage over time. Now if you get an Aghanim Shard, this will also lower the armor of the enemy it hits. It's a great ability for harassing enemies in the lane. The best part is that you can spam it as long as you have enough mana. Now something that I like to do on Viper is buy a Kaya as fast as possible, because this item gives you a lot of mana regen, and it also increases your spell damage. Now with this item early on, you can literally spam poison attack as much as you'd like. Oh, and if you pair this with a Dragon Lance, you can easily force your enemies out of the lane. Next up we have Nether Toxin. When you use this, Viper will spit a toxin at a targeted area. This will basically deal damage to enemies standing in it, and also slow down their attack speed. This ability is useful for zoning out enemies and controlling areas in teamfights. You can also use Nether Toxin to clear creep waves quickly, but it does require some mana, so only use on creep waves whenever you have enough mana and mana regen. Viper's third ability is a passive called Corrosive Skin. This passive gives Viper increased magic resistance and slows and damages any enemy that attacks him. Then we have Viper's ultimate, Viper Strike. This ability launches a slowing and damaging poison at the enemy. This ultimate is so annoying for the enemy to deal with because it applies a poison on you that deals a lot of damage, and if that wasn't enough, it will also slow your movement and attack speed a lot. When you buy an Aghanim Scepter, Viper also gains the ability Nosedive. When you use this ability, Viper slams into the ground, which deals some AoE damage. You could also try to use this as an escape if needed. Now, if you want to make your enemies mad as hell, build a lot of attack speed items and a Dragon Lance / Hurricane Pike to extend your range. Oh, and also a Butterfly. This way Viper can poison his enemies from afar, and if they ever get close without dying from poison, they will just miss most of their attacks because of your Butterfly. Anyway, that's it for Viper. If you enjoy a hero that can poison enemies with his right clicks, slow them, and make people mad, then Viper is the hero for you.
Everybody freeze!
Lich is a great ranged support. With his abilities, he can shield allies, slow and damage enemies, and even force enemy players to run towards him with Sinister Gaze. The best part about Lich is his ability to cause the enemy team to panic after you throw your big blue frosty balls in their faces. Lich has 4 abilities, plus an extra one if you get an Aghanim Shard. The first ability is Frost Blast. This ability blasts an enemy for a good amount of frost damage, which not only damages them, but also slows their movement and attack speed. Frost Blast also deals splash damage, so if there are more enemies near your primary target, they will get hit for some of the damage as well. Now, if you are playing against a squishy hero in the early game, like for example Hoodwink, you will be able to deal a lot of damage to him if you max out this spell early on. Next up we have Frost Shield. This will give you, or your allies, a shield which will reduce incoming physical damage, while also slowing and damaging enemies around the shielded person. Then we have Sinister Gaze. This ability forces an enemy to look into your eyes, dragging them towards you while also draining their mana over time. Now the best thing about this ability is that it can be used to interrupt enemy heroes, or simply to pull enemies into your team during teamfights. Now with an Aghanim Scepter, Sinister Gaze becomes an AoE ability, which will allow you to interrupt multiple heroes at once. Now Lich's ultimate is Chain Frost. This throws a big ice ball at your target. which then bounces to nearby enemies, dealing a lot of damage and also slowing them. The ball itself will bounce up to 10 times, but in the late game, it can bounce indefinitely as long as there are enemies nearby. Now, if you are able to keep multiple enemies close to each other, with for example your Sinister Gaze, roots from other heroes, or maybe even your Ice Spire, you will have a lot of fun with this ability. Lastly, we have Ice Spire, which Lich learns after buying a Aghanim shard. This ability creates an Ice Spire at a target location. The spire slows nearby enemies, and the best thing about it is that you can target it with your ultimate and Frost Shield. After your Chain Frost hits the spire, it will deal increased damage to the next enemy it hits. Now, since Lich can be quite squishy, you should get some escape items like, for example, a Glimmer Cape or a Force Staff. Also, if you want to see the enemy team melt away in teamfights, consider getting a Refresher Orb. Whenever you use this item, it will refresh your ultimate. So this will allow you to throw 2 big frosty balls at your enemies. Personally, I like to play aggressively on Lich, so I buy a Blink Dagger and a Refresher Orb. This way I can blink into the enemy team, place my Ice Spire, cast my ultimate on it, use Refresher Orb, and then throw a second ultimate on them. Now, if I'm lucky, I can also get a Sinister Gaze in and just watch them all melt away. It's a lot of fun whenever it works. Oh, and also, just make sure you buy wards if you want to be a good support. Anyway, that's it for Lich. If you enjoy seeing your enemies panic when you throw your blue frosty balls at them, then you should give Lich a try.
Oh, you want some of this, eh?
Bristleback is a tanky, annoying motherfucker who can dish out a lot of damage while also being tough to kill. This guy can quill his enemies to death while laughing at them while they are trying to kill him. He's perfect for beginners because he's very simple and can soak a lot of damage while also dealing a lot of damage back to the enemies. Bristleback has 4 abilities and an extra one if you buy an Aghanim shard. Vicious Nasal Goo is Bristleback's first ability. Bristle basically covers a target in snot, which then reduces their armor and slows their movement speed. It stacks, so the more snot you put on an enemy, the squishier and slower they get. It's great for chasing down enemies and making them easier to kill. Then we have Quill Spray. This lets Bristleback shoot a bunch of quills in a radius around him, dealing damage to all enemies it hits. Now, the more you hit them with it, the more damage it does. It's great for harassing in the lane, clearing creep waves, and dealing tons of damage in teamfights. Bristleback is his passive ability that reduces damage taken from the back and sides, while also releasing a couple of quills if Bristleback takes a certain amount of damage from behind. Now, this makes him very tanky, and basically punishes enemies for trying to gank him from the back. This ability is the reason why Bristleback can eventually just turn his back, stand still, and watch his attackers die while trying to kill him. Now, if you get an Aghanim Scepter, you will be able to activate this ability. When you activate it, you will start shooting a lot of quills towards the area that you've targeted. If this burst of quills keeps hitting your enemies, they will eventually take a lot of damage and probably die. Bristle's ultimate is called Warpath. This is a passive ability, and basically each time he casts a spell, he gains bonus movement speed and damage. This makes spamming your abilities even more rewarding, since you will become faster and hit your enemies harder. Now, when you buy an Aghanim shard on Bristleback, he gains the Hairball ability. This lets him spit out a hairball that applies both Vicious Nasal Goo and Quill Spray on enemies. It's perfect for initiating fights and stacking up damage quickly. Now, Bristle can be very tanky, but if you are dealing with a lot of enemies that deal magic damage, you have to get items like a Pipe of Insight or an Eternal Shroud. If you don't, well, you will have a bad time dealing with magic damage, that's for sure. Now, one of the things that I do on Bristleback is build a lot of defensive items and some items that give me lifesteal. Because what this will do is give you HP back each time a quill hits an enemy. So the more you get hit, the more quills you will shoot, and the more you will get healed. It can become pretty insane, to be honest, especially in Turbo. That's it for Bristleback. If you enjoy playing a hero that can throw snot at his enemies, shoot a bunch of quills up their asses, and tank a ton of damage without dying, then Bristleback is the hero for you.
Live by the sword, die by the dragon.
Dragon Knight is a tanky melee carry. This man can stun enemies, breathe fire on them, and transform into a cool looking dragon with different abilities based on his ultimate form. He's also great for beginners because he's tanky and very simple to play. Dragon Knight has 4 abilities. and an extra one if you buy an Aghanim shard. Breathe Fire is Dragon Knight's first ability. This lets you breathe fire in a cone that damages enemies and reduces their attack damage for a couple of seconds. It's great for harassing enemies in the lane and reducing the damage output of enemy carries in teamfights. Then we have Dragon Tail. This is his stun ability. After you use it, it will stun an enemy and deal a bit of damage. Now the best thing about this stun is that the stun duration is pretty long, especially at high levels. So it's great for setting up kills or interrupting enemy abilities. Now Elder Dragon form is Dragon Knight's ultimate, and it's what makes him actually pretty cool. When activated, Dragon Knight transforms into a dragon with enhanced abilities. Now if you want to get the most out of Dragon Knight, you should buy a Aghanim Scepter. This will add a level 4 dragon form. While in this Black Elder dragon form, you will deal a lot more damage and splash damage. Now if you want to cause more chaos for the enemy team, you should buy a Manta style and use it while you are in your Elder dragon form. Now when you buy an Aghanim shard, Dragon Knight gains the ability Fireball. This lets him throw a fireball at a target area, dealing damage over time to enemies that stand in the fire. It's really good for zoning out enemies and adding extra damage in teamfights. Now on Dragon Knight, you should build items that increase his tankiness and damage. So items like Armlet, Black King Bar, Assault Cuirass, and Heart of Tarrasque are great to build on him. As I mentioned before, a Manta style works really well on him, and since his attack speed isn't that great, you should also get some attack speed items like for example a Mjolnir. So that's it for Dragon Knight. If you would like to play a hero that can transform into a dragon, stun enemies, breathe fire up their ass, and tank a lot of damage, then Dragon Knight can be the hero for you.
I am Shadow Shaman!
Shadow Shaman is a ranged support hero who can disable enemies, deal a lot of burst damage, and destroy towers with his ultimate. Now he's also got some of the best lockdowns in the game, which makes him a lot of fun to play if you enjoy disabling enemies. Now Shadow Shaman has 4 abilities. His first ability shoots lightning, I guess, at multiple targets, which will deal a decent amount of damage to them. It's great for clearing creep waves quickly and harassing your enemies. His Hex ability is a ability that lets you polymorph your enemy into a chicken for a few seconds. It disables their abilities, items, and lowers their movement speed, making it a great ability for setting up kills or interrupting enemy initiations. Then we have his channeled ability called Shackles. Now this ability roots an enemy in place and deals damage over time. While shackling someone, you won't be able to move or attack, but the duration is quite long, making it perfect for locking down targets in teamfights. Now to make shackles even more annoying to deal with, you should buy a Aghanim shard. It will not only increase your shackles cast range, but it will also spawn 4 serpent wards around the target that will keep dealing damage to it. Then we have Shadow Shaman's ult, Serpent Ward. This will summon a circle of serpent wards that attack nearby enemies and buildings. This ability is great for pushing towers and dealing a lot of damage in teamfights if you can trap enemies within the wards. If you buy an Aghanim Scepter, your mass serpent wards will start attacking 2 enemies instead of 1. So it will increase the amount of damage that you deal as well. Now the only thing that I don't really like about Shadow Shaman is that his cast range is kinda ass early game. It really is. So you should definitely consider buying a Aether Lens to increase his cast range. So yeah, that's it for Shadow Shaman. If you want to play a hero that can turn enemies into chickens, push towers, and keep his enemies shackled up for years, then you should definitely try out Shadow Shaman.
Fire and ice!
Jakiro is another ranged support that can root his enemies in place with his ice path and then light their asses up with his fire abilities. Now even though Jakiro is a support hero, he can deal devastating damage and even cause enemy team wipes if you are able to freeze them and keep them inside your fire. Now if you are struggling to land your roots or just want to be even more of a nuisance, consider buying a Gleipnir. This item lets you root enemies by targeting them, giving Jakiro 2 roots instead of 1. Jakiro's first ability, Dual Breath, slows its enemy's movement and attack speed, while also dealing fire damage over time. Next up we have Ice Path. Now this will create a path of ice in front of Jakiro that stuns and roots enemies caught in it. This ability is great for interrupting, catching fleeing enemies, and keeping your enemies in place. Now Jakiro's third ability kinda depends on which facet you choose. So if you choose Liquid Fire, you will be able to deal damage over time and reduce your enemy's attack speed. This ability is also great for pushing since you can use it on towers as well. Now if you chose the Liquid Frost one, you will be able to apply a slow on your enemy and have them take extra damage from your other abilities. Now when you reach level 25, you will be able to use both Liquid Fire and Liquid Frost. When you buy an Aghanim shard, Jakiro's Liquid Frost or Liquid Fire, depending on which facet you chose, will deal 2.5% of the enemy's max health as damage per second. Then we have Jakiro's ultimate, Macropyre. Now, Jakiro's ultimate can melt away all of his enemies when combined with a Veil of Discord, Gleipnir, and your Ice Path. When you use this ability, Jakiro breathes down a line of fire that deals a lot of fire damage to enemies that stand in it. Now, with Macropyre, you can block off escape routes and force your enemies to move around. If they don't, they will simply die. Now, if you want to make it even harder for your enemies to get out of your ultimate, you should buy an Aghanim Scepter. With a Aghanim Scepter, your Macropyre will now also be surrounded with 2 walls of ice that slows your enemies by 60%, which is great if you want to deal a lot of damage. Now, if you feel like you are getting focused way too much, you could consider buying a Glimmer Cape or Force Staff. Also, as mentioned before, getting a Gleipnir also allows you to root multiple enemies inside your ultimate. So I would highly recommend getting that item almost every match. Anyway, that's it for Jakiro. If you enjoy a hero that can freeze enemies in place and burn them alive, then Jakiro might be for you.
I think I just got smarter.
Ogre Magi is a tanky support hero who can buff allies, stun enemies, and deal a lot of burn damage. This two-headed ogre has an ability that gives your spells a chance to trigger multiple times. So, if RNGesus is with you, you might see your enemies get stunned 4 times in a row and instantly die. I love this guy. Like, he's probably one of my favorite supports with Witch Doctor, even though I mostly build him like a carry. Now, Ogre Magi is tanky and pretty easy to play as a support, making him a great choice for beginners. Ogre Magi has 4 abilities, and 2 extra ones if you buy an Aghanim Shard and Scepter. Fire Blast is Ogre's first ability. It does what it says. It lets you blast an enemy with fire, dealing damage and stunning them. The great thing about this ability is that it can be multicast, which means it can go off multiple times on the same target. If RNGesus is with you, you could stun lock someone and deal a ton of damage. Then we have his second ability, which is called Ignite. This ability lets you throw a bottle of fire at an enemy, lighting their asses on fire and dealing damage over time, while also slowing their movement speed. It's perfect for harassing enemies in the lane and chasing them down when they try to run away. Now, with a bit of luck from multicast, you can hit multiple people with it, making it even more annoying for them. Then we have Bloodlust. This is basically a buff that you can cast on yourself or an ally. It will increase your attack speed and movement speed. So then we have Ogre Magi's multicast, which is his ultimate. It gives you a chance to cast your abilities and items multiple times with one cast. The higher the level, the more times you can multicast. This makes all of your abilities way more powerful and unpredictable. So, basically you are playing a slot machine. There is nothing more satisfying than seeing a multicast go off and stun an enemy multiple times until they are dead. It's great. Now when you buy an Aghanim Shard, Ogre Magi gains the Fire Shield ability. This ability creates a shield around an ally or yourself that absorbs damage and shoots a fireball back at the attacker whenever the shield gets attacked. Now the last ability that you get whenever you buy an Aghanim Scepter is called the Unrefined Fire Blast. This ability works just like Fire Blast, but costs a percentage of your current mana. It's great for getting off an extra stun. Since Ogre Magi is already pretty tanky, you could focus more on building items that will annoy the enemy team even more. Items like an Aether Lance to increase your cast range, War Staff or Blink Dagger for mobility, and a Shiva's Guard to slow down enemies even more. Also make sure you get a Heart of Tarask because this will make you even harder to kill. Now I like to build him as a carry, so I go for full attack speed and damage items, but as a beginner, I would just focus on playing him as a support first. So, that's it for Ogre Magi. Like I said, this is probably my favorite support. If you enjoy playing a hero that can stun enemies multiple times, buff your allies, and be annoying as hell if RNGesus is with you, then Ogre Magi will be perfect for you. So, guys, those are 10 heroes that I think are the most fun and beginner-friendly for new players. That said, Dota 2 has 126 heroes, I think, and plenty of others are also not that hard to pick up, especially if you've played League, Smite or Heroes of the Storm before. It all comes down to what playstyle suits you best. So I will put a list on the screen and also in the description below of some of the other easy to learn heroes that you might want to check out if you are interested. But like I said, it really depends on your playstyle and whether you've played a MOBA before. Anyway guys, I hope that this video was helpful for some of you and that you've liked the video. If you did and you want to see more content like this, then please consider subscribing. Now with that being said, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a great day and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.